I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to shape your identity consciously and transform yourself into the person that you actually want to be. Because I really believe that a lot of us walk through life and we neglect this idea that identity is important. We walk through life and we think like, oh, identity is just this like loose concept that like maybe is important, but it's like, it's an interesting concept and it sounds really nice, but it doesn't apply to me, right? It's like, no, I think that every person, whether they realize it or not, are living by this principle of becoming the identity that they choose for themselves. So either way, if you're going to be choosing an identity for yourself, wouldn't you want to choose consciously? So let's talk about that in this video. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you in this video is just to remember that identity is everything. Now, what does this mean? This means that whether you realize it or not, you are becoming the person that you choose to be every single moment. Moment to moment, you're thinking about something, about how some type of way that you are. You imagine yourself to be some type of way. You see yourself and you have the self-image of who you are. And you're literally going to be walking through life and taking action to create this image that you believe yourself to be. That's what kind of life really is that we just kind of walk through life and we embody the character that we are creating for ourselves. That's just what we're doing. We're walking through life and we're, we're being that person that we think ourselves to be. That's what I think life is. And I think that this is happening whether we are conscious of this or not. So it's not that I'm sitting here and telling you that like I know something that you don't. Like, it's not what I want to make it sound like. It's not like I'm sitting here and like, oh, I have more information than you do. And it's like I'm trying to give you information here. Like, no, it's not. I'm not trying to give you information. What I really want from this video and my intention behind this video is for every single person to realize that, you're becoming who you prefer to be, whether that process is conscious or not. But I think that, if there's an agreement that this is happening, wouldn't that be a good process to take control of? Wouldn't that be good? So let me give you an example. If somebody doesn't like to smoke, if they want to stop smoking in their life, let's say that's what they want to stop doing. Some people are doing challenges to stop smoking. Like, I'm going to be going on like a 20-day challenge to stop smoking, no smoking challenge. And this is just one example, right? You can apply this analogy here to anything in your life, but take this example for what it is. I believe that that's not going to work. If you want to stop smoking, you can't go on a non-smoking challenge. I'm sorry to tell you, that's not going to work. If you want long-term results, that's not going to work. What's going to work is, instead of trying to stop smoking, which still implies that you are the identity of a smoker, instead what you should do is simply make a choice to be a person that no longer smokes. That's the better choice to make. Because remember, if you're doing some type of 20-day challenge to stop smoking, in your identity, in your subconscious, in the deep part of who you really are, you still believe that you're a smoker. So the challenge is not going to work. Maybe you'll complete the challenge and then you're going to go back to smoking. But remember, if that challenge works, it wasn't the challenge, it was your decision to become not a smoker. Some people can smoke for 20 years, try all these challenges and remedies and all these different things, but what switches them over is the decision to simply not be a smoker anymore. However they get to that point, whatever brings them to that point in their life, that's what's going to switch, is the identity, the choice. I think that we are making choices in our life, whether we realize it or not. Whether we're conscious of it or not, we're making choices on a day-to-day basis, on a moment-to-moment basis. So I think that the best thing to do is to make conscious choices. Isn't it the best thing we can do? Is, if we're making choices anyway, to make more conscious choices? Rather than guessing, we really connect to how it really makes sense to make the choice. So consciously do it. So remember, if you really want to, shape your identity consciously and transform your life, which identity are you embodying in this moment? Are you taking control of this process consciously? Are you letting your mind just kind of create the self-image for yourself that like you don't really like? Why not take all that energy of what you don't like and then transmute that towards what you prefer instead, and become the self-image that resonates for you, that excites you, that makes you feel empowered, where you are empowered. At that point, it wouldn't be a feeling anymore, because it's like you realized how you can do whatever you want to do and embody who you want to be, and then just do it. No more talking about it, just actually do it. That's empowerment right there. So, if that makes sense to you, I would invite and encourage you to think more consciously about who are you being on a moment-to-moment basis. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you in this video is just to remember that I really do believe that transformation is normal. I think that we walk through life and that we believe that transformation is this airy-fairy concept where sometimes we can transform, sometimes we can be the person that we want to be, but it's like, maybe only in specific settings and under specific circumstances. And it's true, we do need the right set and setting and support systems to transform. That's true. Like a flower can't grow if it's not in the right environment with the right growth and support, right? That's true. But just remember, unless you stop the flow of life, it's normal for things to move and transform and flow. That's a normal part of life. What stops this sort of natural mechanism, I believe, is when we sort of allow ourselves to resist, where we put resistance onto the present moment, and we resist and we judge ourselves, and we put that extra layer of suffering on top of the situation. So there's the situation actually happening for what it is, and then there's our opinions and filters and stories. Now, I'm not saying that stories are bad. Stories are good, because I really do believe that there's no getting away from the fact that everything in life is a story to some degree. You have a perspective. The people that you're walking with in your life, that you're talking to, every human being, they also have a perspective. They also have a perspective, and they have filters. And I think that what happens is that when these filters clash and there's a disagreement, transformation can stop. Transformation can stop being normal. But I really believe that it is normal. We just forget. We forget that we should always be aligned with our intentions, and to not believe in an idea that allows that natural flow of transformation to stop, to just not flow anymore. I think that that's the problem, is that, what I think normal life is that we have an intention, we align our actions with that intention, our identity is shifting moment to moment based on what we're thinking about and who we're creating ourselves to be. And as your life goes on, transformation can happen very, very quickly, and in an abrupt way, in a very powerful way, where you can make a lot of things happen in a very short period of time in a way that is very powerful. I think that's very normal, just to consistently change and transform. And if you look at somebody maybe from 5 years ago, you look at that person today and it's like, wow, they absolutely are not the same person. Or you look at another person and say, well, they're the same person. Why are they the same? It's been 5 years. One person looks all different, and they're different, have these different results, and they're acting all these different character traits and this, and it's like, how does that happen? The other person, well, they believe transformation can only happen on one specific day. The other person believes that every moment is a transformation. Every moment is you transforming into something different. That's just what life actually is. That's just literally life. Life is literally just you transforming moment to moment into the person that you prefer to be. So I invite and encourage you just to start to take this concept that, you becoming something different moment to moment is a normal process of life. This is life, is that we are transforming. What stops it is the ego structure, where we attach to a belief rather than consciously thinking about what we prefer to believe in the moment. That's all it really is. When the ego attaches to the belief system and thinks like, oh, this is me, this is who I am, and I can't change this, and this is who I want to be forever, of course you're not going to transform, because you've limited yourself to this identity that you think is the truth of all reality. But it's not the truth of all reality. It's just one perspective that you've attached to. But those perspectives can change, and if we don't attach to them, we can invite and encourage natural transformation in our life. This to me means faster results, more efficient action, more efficient communication. No beating around the bush. You don't need to necessarily be strict about how you communicate. You can be softer in your communication style. Nonetheless, there's a truth and an essence that comes from a person's communication when they come from this space. And they easily transform, and they're changing and growing every single moment into much more powerful human beings, and their wisdom is ever so increasing every single moment, much more than the average human being that doesn't have this mentality, or not even mentality, a way of being, that this person, of course, is going to experience more transformation. Now, the third thing that I want to share with you in this video is just remember that really action, is movement and also is flow. Those are all, synonymous terms to a certain degree when it comes to shaping your identity and consciously transforming yourself. So once you know who you want to be, once you understand that transforming is a natural part of life, is just we are fluid, not static human beings. I think that from this space, I think that one of the key is to remain in a state of momentum. Once you build momentum in a certain area, do your best to maintain it. To maintain this state of momentum. Maintain a state of momentum means to stay in a flow of action. To stay in a flow of action means to stay in movement. And what does it mean to really stay in movement? It means to stay in flow. These are all the same thing essentially when, again, it comes to being the person that you want to be. So I might encourage you, I might encourage you to do a lot of things, I understand that, but I really do want every single person, not every single person, but who wants to do it, to stay in this state of action and flow. And I really do believe that that's the essence of shaping your identity, right? Because if you really want to transform yourself, if you really want to be the person that you want to be, you can't just be in a stagnated state, in a derp state, or I don't know if that's a respectful word, but in a state where you're, again, floating. If you're kind of floating through life, that's not going to be a setting and state to transform. Like if you're stagnated and you're limited to a belief, that's not how you transform. That's not the space to transform. If you want to transform, you do have to create the right space, just like a flower, like we said. So for me, what that means is staying in a state of action and flow. If you're committed to an identity, just stay committed to it, take action on it. You can't just say you want to be something, but then not actually take action on it. That's not how it works. That's just wishful thinking at that point, right? That's not turning your vision into a reality. If you really want to turn your vision into a reality, then what I invite and encourage you to do is to start to take this concept of action and movement and flow much more seriously, so that you can really, start shaping your identity into who you want to be. So start to live your life with more intention, yes, of course, but back that up with action in your life, with you being the person that you want to be. Actually back it up. You can't just talk about what you want to be and then think about it, but not actually take action. That's just, again, just a dream. That's just not a dream. But why think about something? Yes, have a dream. Why not take action on it and then define what action is? Why not become clear on what it actually means to take action and to be the person that you want to be? Why not become incredibly structured with that? Why not put it on a piece of paper and say, you know what? Here's what I want to be. Here's what it looks like. Here's the name of the identity. What's the name? What is it? Successful the CEO? What is it, like some type of relationship? Like what is it? What do you want to be? Put it on a piece of paper. Make it clear. Don't half commit to this, because if you're gonna half commit to writing who you want to be on paper, and you don't have a clear intention of who you want to be, you're gonna walk through life and embody a half committed character. That's just what's gonna happen. I don't want to be a half committed character. The character that I embody, I want to be fully